DreAllDay.com. DreAllDay.com. Hope everybody's been doing good. I haven't made one of these solo videos in a minute. And I also have not talked about what's going on in the basketball world in a minute, but I think it's perfect timing. I'm recording this on Friday, February the 11th. So this is the day after the NBA's trade deadline has passed. Some trades have happened. My hometown team, the Philadelphia 76ers, made a move. So I want to talk about that and where I see things going for the team moving forward. Now, we all know the situation. It was Ben Simmons after his terrible non-play. We can't even say it's terrible play. It's terrible non-play in the playoffs last year. He somehow inexplicably twisted this around to where the Sixers did him wrong. Instead of the Sixers should have decided not to pay him for the way that he played in the playoffs last year. But anyway, he twisted this whole thing around with a whole lot of victimhood energy and a whole lot of feminine energy, as far as I'm concerned, and used the shield of mental health to hide behind, which I feel like is disrespectful to people who have actual mental health issues, like real mental health issues. That's just my opinion on the situation. And he decided he wasn't going to play. So he didn't play all season. He lost out on like $20 million, which is crazy. And maybe he really does have mental health issues. Yeah, I think something got to be wrong with your mental health. You pass up on $20 million so you play a game for a living. So maybe there is something wrong with his mental health, come to think of it. But anyway, he wasn't playing. I guess the Sixers decided that he wasn't going to play and they couldn't turn the situation around anymore. So they traded him. Now, when it was coming down the last week before the trade deadline, personally, I'm thinking to myself, because I'm from Philly, so I want to see the Sixers be successful. We got a beast in Joel Embiid. We all know what he's doing this year and kicking everybody's ass. As of right now, he probably would win the MVP. It's either going to be him or Jokic, and I think Giannis is right up there, but Giannis is probably not going to get it because he got it twice already. Not that that means he shouldn't get it, but based on the way they vote in the past, he probably wouldn't get it. It'll be him or Jokic. But anyway, I wanted the Sixers to do something because they can't let this season with Joel Embiid go without giving him a real shot at winning a championship. And if they had Ben, they would have a shot at the championship. But without Ben and nobody replacing him, then the Sixers would be good, but I would bet they would probably lose in the first round. Maybe they can win the first round, but they wouldn't get any further than that with the team that they had with no Ben Simmons. So now they took a Ben Simmons who wasn't playing at all, so a zero, and they turned it into Mr. James Harden. The beard, James Harden. Now, here's a few things that I think about this trade. First of all, last summer, not last summer, the summer before last summer. So before this season, that last season when Ben Simmons didn't show up in the playoffs, before that season, when Daryl Morey took the job as the GM of the Sixers, he tried, and we all know he tried, to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden to Houston, because James Harden quit on the Houston Rockets, and let's just keep it real what it was. He quit on the Houston Rockets. He didn't even show up on time to training camp, and then he had that what was he doing? He went to some party or something when he was supposed to be at training camp. Basically disrespected his teammates. Then he did a press conference after one of the practices or something like that where he said, this situation is unfixable. I've done everything I can do. We don't have the pieces. We don't have the talent. And I'm like, dude, you on the team. What do you mean y'all don't have the pieces? Y'all don't have the talent? But anyway, different conversation, different day. He quits on the Houston Rockets. So the Houston Rockets decided, okay, we're going to do right by you, James. Quote unquote, do right. I don't consider it doing right. You're under contract. You got to play for the team no matter who they got. But anyway, they trade him to the Brooklyn Nets. And Brooklyn ended up giving them, well, let's see what Houston ended up getting out of this trade. Because they did get Oladipo initially, but Victor Oladipo was injured. So they traded Oladipo over to Miami. Oladipo's still injured as of this recording, and hopefully he plays for the Heat. Not far away from the arena right now. Hopefully he eventually plays for the Heat and is somewhere close to what he used to be. If he is, then goddamn, the Miami Heat will have a great team. But that's not the conversation here today. Houston ended up with what? What did Houston get from this whole situation? They gave up James Harden, who was at that time one of the top 5 players in the NBA. James Harden. What did they get for him? They could have got Karis LeVert, who was healthy at the time. They didn't keep him. They traded him to Indiana to take back an injured Oladipo. Whatever. So Houston, I don't think they really did that great with what they ended up getting for this whole trade package for James Harden. They could have just got Ben Simmons, who at the time Ben is 25 now. So that means he was either 24 or 23 at that time. They could have got Ben Simmons, who's better than everybody they have on their roster right now, even the young guys. Ben Simmons is the best player they would have on their roster right now if they had just taken Ben Simmons for James Harden. Just straight up trade, done. They could have did that. But so anyway, Houston screwed that up. James Harden goes to Brooklyn. He plays some of the year in Brooklyn. He gets injured in the playoffs, so he couldn't really play that much in the playoffs. And then you had Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and they only ended up playing, 19 games or 16 games together. And everyone thought this was going to be this big juggernaut, this dynastic team. They didn't even get to play that many games together after all of that pomp and circumstance. So anyway, James Harden somehow, some way, decides that he's unhappy in Brooklyn. Why was he unhappy in Brooklyn? We don't really know, because he hasn't really said anything. So this is a new thing with athletes. Instead of saying why you're unhappy, you just demonstrate that you're unhappy. Maybe you leak it to somebody in the media. Let the media people say that you're unhappy without you actually saying it out of your mouth. Again, this is how these guys do these days. I guess this is a normal thing for y'all in this generation. Anyway, so James Harden had this hamstring injury, apparently, and we're going to talk about that in a second. He had this hamstring injury, and it looked like he was stringing it out. Like he's missing games that he doesn't really need to miss because he's injured. And word came out that he did want to get traded from Brooklyn, but he didn't want to say it out loud because then he would look like the guy who 2 years in a row has basically quit on the team and said, I don't want to play here no more, take me somewhere else. But even though he didn't want to say it, we already know it. So we know James Harden has quit on 2 teams in the span of about 1 year. And now he's in Philly, my hometown team, playing with a superstar in Joel Embiid, and this has to work. First of all, for James Harden, this has to work because you can't quit on another team. You quit on Houston after they gave you everything you wanted, built a whole team around you. Your general manager was comparing you to Michael Jordan, saying you're a better scorer than Michael Jordan and all this stuff. You didn't get it done. You wanted to get traded. They traded you to Brooklyn to play with your guy, Kevin Durant, and play with Kyrie Irving. You got injured, didn't get it done. Before the whole next season even ends, somehow you got an injury, you're unhappy, you get traded again, now you're in Philly. All right, so he's in Philly now. Now, what was he unhappy about in Brooklyn? Doesn't matter, he's not there anymore. James Harden, first of all, needs to be healthy. However he shows up for the Sixers, he needs to be healthy, he needs to be 100%, and he needs to do what we expect from James Harden. But that name, dude, you averaged like 35 points a game a couple years ago. We don't need to average 35, average 25, but run the offense, be the point guard, get everybody the ball, do what you got to do. Get that ball to Joel Embiid. He should be averaging 30 out there with James Harden on the team. And this Sixers team needs to go to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. Anything less than the Eastern Conference Finals is a failure. We gave up an all-NBA player in Ben Simmons. We have an MVP candidate in Joel Embiid, and now we got James Harden. This is a guy who has won an MVP. He's led the league in scoring. He has declared himself the MVP a couple other times when he didn't win it. This guy with Joel Embiid, all right, these guys, Eastern Conference Finals or nothing less than that is acceptable. Now, the Eastern Conference is pretty tough right now. Eastern Conference actually might be better than the West right now. Remember all those years people said the East was weaker than the West when LeBron was going to the finals every year? East is tough now. So you got the Sixers are a tough team. You got Milwaukee, tough team. Brooklyn, tough. Who's the other teams? Chicago is looking good this year. They're tough. Miami Heat is tough. That's 5 tough teams right there. One of them is not even going to have home court in the first round of the playoffs. So the Eastern Conference playoffs is going to be tough. The Sixers, all right, we need to get at least to the 3rd round of this playoffs. We need to win 2 rounds in the playoffs this year. Nothing less is acceptable. So James Harden needs to be in shape. He needs to show up. He needs to get the ball to Joel Embiid. This is not going to be a James Harden-centric offense. This is not going to be Houston Part 2. All right, Joel Embiid ain't Dwight Howard. So the ball is going to Joel Embiid, and I'm sure Joel and Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey are all having this conversation with Joel and James and make sure everybody's on the same damn page. No bullshit, no excuses this year, as long as everybody's healthy, and James needs to be healthy. And I think his hamstring, just like Charles Barkley said on TNT, ain't nothing wrong with that hamstring. He got traded, he's healthy now. He will be 100% in uniform and ready to play. I'm hoping by the next Sixers game, whenever that happens to be. I don't even know what the schedule is. So that's James Harden. Now let's talk about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, we have not heard him say anything. This is he went into say nothing mode. Again, this is what these guys do these days. So now he's been traded. Now, I want to know how much of that mental health thing, how much of his issues was really mental health. Because if it was really mental health, then it doesn't matter what team he's on. He should not be playing. Maybe he'll be out for the rest of the season. And they say KD, Kevin Durant, is out for another 3 or 4 weeks with his knee situation. But Brooklyn's looking terrible right now. They can't win a game. They got Kyrie, but they are not a formidable team with just Kyrie as their best player. They need something else besides just Kyrie. Kyrie's a good player, but he's a complimentary guy. He's not a main guy on a winning team. And listen, Kyrie, if you're watching this, your career proves this out. That ain't even an argument. So whenever KD comes back, combined with Ben Simmons, combined with Kyrie, and they got Andre Drummond, who's probably better than any big man that they had on the roster until yesterday. This is actually a pretty damn good team. Brooklyn actually has a pretty good team. And they have Seth Curry, who was actually a really good player and had a good tandem combination with Joel Embiid. I'm sick that we had to give him up. They had to do what they had to do. And give up 2 first-round picks. And they gave up a lot. The Sixers gave up a lot to get James Harden, but I know Daryl Morey, he's basically, James Harden's like Daryl Morey's son. He's the one who was hyping him up so much and built everything around him in Houston. So I get it that Daryl Morey wanted him. And James Harden is better than Ben Simmons. He is, in different ways, but James Harden is just better than Ben Simmons, period. If I had to pick a player, I'd rather have James Harden than Ben Simmons. So this is an upgrade for the Sixers roster, but at the same time, we lost some depth. We lost the backup big in Drummond. We lost the 2 guard, or point guard, just call him a guard, in Seth Curry. We lost him. We gave up 2 first-round picks or in the future, which is, I don't know why they had to give up so much just to get James. I think because the Sixers were I think they were a little bit desperate. They didn't want to let this trade deadline go. And I would have been fine with Brad Beal had he been healthy and wanted to trade, or Damian Lillard had he been healthy and wanted to trade. But James Harden ain't a bad constellation to either one of those. Brad Beal's the youngest one, but I ain't mad at James Harden being the guy that we came out of this with. Now, Ben Simmons, I want to know when he comes back. When's he actually going to play a game? Because I think you put him on the Nets roster right now, put him in the lineup right now, with the team that they have right now, with an injured KD, they will win more games than they've been winning just by putting Ben on the team because of his defense, because of his athleticism, his size. He's like 6'10", even though he's not going to shoot the ball, even though he's probably not going to improve his game in any way. He's just going to be who he's been, which is pretty damn good. He's still one of the top 20 players in the world, even with his weaknesses, that the Nets will be a lot better just by adding Ben Simmons to the roster right now. So who knows when that's going to happen or how it's going to happen. But I'm interested to see when this dude shows up because he claimed mental health. So he has to at least drag this on for a little bit longer before he starts playing again. And I want to see him and Kevin Durant on the same team. That's going to be a very, very formidable team. It's going to be tough to score on with any team that doesn't have a traditional big, like a big, like a Jokic or a Joel Embiid, somebody like that, or even a Giannis. Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons cannot guard Giannis. So I am interested just to see this team when they actually have everybody back. KD, let's say a month from now, end of March maybe, end of March, when KD's back. Ben Simmons, whenever he gets out of his mental health thing, if it's actually a mental health thing, we'll see. And the Sixers, I'm expecting to see James Harden sooner than I see Ben Simmons. I do know about that. Now, overall, Eastern Conference picture, if I had to pick a team to come out of the East right now, and people always ask me this stuff, I don't really like making these predictions before I see a playoff bracket, and we're not even there yet. But if I had to pick a team right now, I got to go with Milwaukee. I got to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. Even though I'm from Philly, I want the Sixers to do good, but Giannis is the best player in the NBA right now. He's the best player in the league. He's won MVP twice. Then he won Defensive Player of the Year. Then he won the championship as the main guy on the team that won the championship. After he won DPOY and MVP 2 years in a row, he's the best player in the league. Ain't no other way to argue it. He has the team success and the individual success at the same time. Nobody else is touching him right now with the combination of both. And he's healthy last time that I checked. And the Bucks they got Middleton back. They got Drew Holiday in there. They do have an injury with Brook Lopez, but they just picked up Serge Ibaka, who is better than whoever they were playing. He'll be better than the replacement that they had in place. So the Bucks are the number one. They are still the number one contender right now. Miami is frisky. They're a team to watch. They are definitely a team to watch. I'm interested to see who they play in the playoffs. They're a tough matchup always. Chicago, they have DeMar DeRozan's playing great. Might be playing the best ball of his career. Zach LaVine, of course, Vooch. I don't think Chicago can beat Brooklyn or a healthy Brooklyn. They can't beat Brooklyn. They can't beat Milwaukee. They are not beating the Sixers. And who else is there in the Eastern Conference? I don't think they're beating any of those teams. I don't think they beat Miami either. I don't think the Bulls can beat either of the top four, those 4 teams in the East that I just mentioned. The Bulls are one of the top 4 right now. But I don't think they can beat any one of those 4 in a playoff series if the playoffs started today. I do not think so. But hey, maybe they will prove me wrong. I didn't think they would even be this good. So I can be wrong a second time about the Chicago Bulls. So Bulls fans are going to let me know about that. Charlotte, they're not doing nothing. They lose in the first round. Who else is in there in the East? I don't even know who else is in the. I'm going to pull out my phone here and I'm going to check the standings in the Eastern Conference. I don't even know who else is up there right now when it comes to standings in the Eastern Conference. So you got Miami, Chicago. Oh yeah, Cleveland. Forgot about the Cavs. And the Raptors and the Celtics and the Hawks. So the Hawks, I think the Hawks are going to lose in the first round this year, even though they went to the conference finals. They're going to lose in the first round if they make it. Charlotte, they're losing in the first round. Boston, losing in the first round. The Raptors will be feisty. The Raptors are a frisky team, but they're not beating any one of those four that I said. The Cleveland Cavaliers are actually pretty damn good. The Cavs are very good. Now, if the playoffs start today, it'd be the Cavs against the Raptors. So one of those teams gets to make it the second round. Hopefully that's not the matchup, because neither one of those teams, I don't think, will have earned their way into it by beating the other. And again, Cavs fans, Raptors fans, be mad if you want to be mad. That's just the way I see it. Brooklyn, I think, will play their way out of the play-in. Right now, they're in 8 seed. I think they'll move up. But they need KD back, and they need Ben Simmons to actually play, because right now they're in trouble. Brooklyn's in trouble right now. Miami's in the top spot, but separating the top 5 teams is only 3 games. So this is going to change a lot, many times, as we move forward. So that's how I feel about the Ben Simmons for James Harden trade. I know there's other pieces in it, but we'll just talk about the 2 main principles in that deal. The Sixers, Eastern Conference Finals. That's the aim, and that's it. That's how I feel about it. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Y'all tell me what y'all see. And let's get to this basketball conversation over these next 2 months. It's about 2 months away from the playoffs. And then we get into go hard or go home time, NBA playoffs. Everybody work on your game. Dre, oh yeah, one more thing. Get my daily motivation text message straight to your phone, free of charge. Just text me at my text number, which is 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Text me what you think about this NBA situation with the Sixers and the Nets. Where you think it's going to go? How you think it's going to go? How you think it's going to shake out? Work on your game. Dre all day.